Madam Chairman. Over a year ago, Mr. Secretary, Congress provided HUD with nearly $16 billion to help areas that were devastated by disasters between 2015 and 2017 to rebuild their communities to a more resilient standard, sustainability, with essentially mitigation funds. 15 states and localities, as well as Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, are still waiting on HUD's guidance to develop their action plans and begin drawing down these funds. First, has the administration or OMB directed you or any member of your leadership team at any time to delay or suspend action on the mitigation funding?
No, none at all.
Thank you. If not, then what is the cause for this delay in publishing the mitigation notice in the Federal Register, and when can we expect the publication?
Well, we had a government shutdown, but also with this mitigation money, this is the largest amount of money that's ever been committed to mitigation, and we want to make sure we get it right. I do expect that to be done by May 1st.
By May 1st. Thank you very much. And as you know, the intent of this funding was to give the grantees the ability to rebuild not just what was there before, which would be destroyed in the next hurricane, which now every 100-year hurricane comes every 3 years, but to provide the resiliency and the sustainability that we need.
Absolutely.
And it also affects their strategy going forward. They've been paralyzed because, and this is not only for the states, but also for the territories and the Commonwealth of the Philippines, of Puerto Rico. Are you concerned that increasing these costs and efficiencies by moving forward will create more problems, i.e., you've committed to May 1st, I appreciate that, but have we already sort of caused undue pain?
Well, I will tell you that the May 1st commitment is 2 months ahead of what we had promised before, so we are moving things along. I have actually impaneled a task force at HUD to look at inefficiencies and ways that we can cut down on timing. There are some areas where we get things done in a day or two and other areas where it takes months, and I find that to be unsatisfactory, and I think you're going to see a big change in that. Thank
you, Mr. Secretary. I want to also ask about the disasters that's occurred in 2018 and 2019. We have not received from the administration a request yet for disaster assistance, and these have been major disasters in portions of North Carolina, South Carolina, Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota. Does the administration see a need for additional emergency disaster assistance to those impacted states?
I think there probably is going to be a need for it, and I know that the Senate and the House are working on a supplement for that. We're hopeful to get that total amount because it makes it much easier to designate.
But wouldn't it be appropriate for the White House to request the money?
My understanding is that the negotiations are already going on.
No, there are negotiations constantly going around this body, but is the White House going to stand up and say we need several $1 billion for Iowa and Nebraska, et cetera, as is typically done in an emergency?
I don't know.
Well, I would encourage you to encourage the White House to stand up so we know clearly that these funds are necessary. The last thing I think we'd want to do is conduct negotiation to discover that the White House does not want these monies spent or thinks they're inappropriate. So I think that would be important to do, Mr. Secretary. There's one other just general area is that last year we discussed your efforts to operationalize the Office of Disaster Management within your department, and you sent up a report last week. Thank you.
Yes.
It appears that there's a number of challenges that you face, understandable. Could you just give us what you believe is the biggest challenge and what additional resources you might need?
Well, thank you. Obviously, it's very important because we've become much more involved, pre-disaster, during the management, and obviously in the post-disaster period. We are reorganizing that office to make it much more efficient. We've placed in charge Janet Golrick, who is an excellent disaster relief individual, probably knows more than anybody about that. And we're updating the IT systems to give us much more efficiency there, and we will continue to give you updates on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.